What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedulefly, and this is another episode in our Timeless Advice series, and this is with Marilyn Schlossbach. Marilyn's up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and she owns the Marilyn Schlosbach Group, and she's got a bunch of restaurants and businesses. She's an extremely well-respected businesswoman in Asbury Park and in that surrounding area, and I really enjoyed speaking with Marilyn the first time we had her on the podcast. It was a no-brainer to have her in our second book, Restaurant Owners Uncorked Part 2. That's what I'm going to be reading from today. This was our second Restaurant Owners Uncorked book that we published in 2017. Both of those books are available on Amazon to this day, and they have timeless advice, which is the stuff you're hearing on this series, so go check them out. We actually went and filmed Marilyn up in Asbury Park and filmed some of her story and her talking about the advice and wisdom that she had picked up over the years in the restaurant business. And if you go to our website, schedulefly.com, and click on the podcast link, you'll see links to our videos. And you can actually link out, if you go over to vimeo.com and look up Restaurant Owners Uncorked, we have a whole video series, and Marilyn's videos are on there. Really amazing lady, and tons of advice, tons of wisdom, tons of passion for what she does and for life in general. But one of the things she told me while we were speaking is how she had, learned from mistakes over the years, that she kind of, she was self-taught chef and just learned by trial and error in everything she did. And so I asked her, I said, what are some of the more memorable mistakes you've made along the way that you've learned from? And here's her answer. I just love this so much. She says, quote, most of my mistakes were either with individual employees that I didn't know how to communicate with well in order to get both of us to perform better as people, or financial mistakes. When I was young, I made a lot of financial mistakes. I owed people money. I didn't pay taxes the right way. I had a very brief restaurant that was in between the bad relationships and the Labrador, and then my break into the snowboard world, called the Karma Cafe. It was open only for a brief period of time because I was really damaged as a person. I just couldn't make the right choices in life. I needed to heal, but I was young and I thought I could handle anything. And I didn't feel that this person had hurt me as bad as he did. I owed a lot of people money when that restaurant closed. It took me a few years to pay people off and to write letters to people. One of them I wrote a letter to, and I sent the check for around $3,000 for a plumbing bill that I never paid. I'm still paying off some of the restaurant to this day. I vowed that I would pay everybody back. So I sent this guy a check and a letter explaining where I was and why it took so long for my fear of contacting him. He wrote me back with the voided check and said, I've been following you and I see all the great things that you've done for people, and I know how hard all that was for you. I can't take your money. I'll always support you. That meant a lot because that was really a tough time for me to overcome. For a person like me, when you don't pay your debt in life, it carries a lot of guilt. That response was really special, a memory I'll always have. Our business in general is a business of passion. If you're in this business, it's not just for the money. It's not the biggest motivating factor, and the margins are not that great for hospitality on an a la carte restaurant level, because we're very driven as people in this industry by our creativity and our passion. It's very easy to get sucked into a building or a space because of what it looks like, or where it is, or a memory that you had. I've done it. I had a beautiful, wonderful restaurant that everybody loved called Trinity and the Pope. It was inspired by a trip to New Orleans. The building looked like it could have been on any street in New Orleans. We fell in love with it, and we created this great restaurant. We had New York Times articles. It was wonderful, but it was in a really bad location. It was on a one-way street going the wrong way. No parking. No one can find us. I sometimes drove home from my other restaurant down the street, and because it was one way in the wrong direction, I would drive right by and not even check on it. That's how much I didn't think about it because of where it was. What I learned from that is that you've got to do your homework when you get into a lease or into a restaurant situation. You have to do it for financial reasons as well as passion. At the end of the day, a dollar's a dollar, and if you ever spend, those dollars add up. And someday you're going to up and not be able to pay your bills. I just had a call the other day about somebody wanting to come to Asbury Park. I said, you've got to do your homework here. You've got to come in the winter. You've got to come during the week. You've got to look at the demographics. You can't just come here in the summer when it's fun and vibrant and there are tons of people everywhere and say you're going to create a successful business here. We're very seasonal where we live. Even though people live here year-round, their patterns in the winter are very different than they are in the summer. We'll hibernate more. And they have kids in school functions, and they don't go out all the time. People come in the restaurants on Saturday night in the summer, and they're like, gosh, you make a lot of money. Look at this place. It's packed. I'm like, we'll try it today, Monday, raining, Jersey Shore. I probably have 2 tables. That's a big one. Doing your homework, reaching out to people that you feel confident to give you advice on the situation. Negotiating a lease is an arduous process. I'm in one right now. I was in one for a project for a year and a half, and then we didn't do the project because it just didn't make sense at the end of the day. We couldn't get the number to where both sides could be happy. We had to walk away from all the work and money that we had put into it. But if I didn't, I'd probably not be there long enough to reap any rewards. With Trinity, I could have gone to New Orleans like a dozen times, stayed in the finest places and eaten in the finest restaurants for the amount of money we lost. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, and that's hard. End quote. So much good advice in there. So much good advice. Re-listen to that. If you're starting a restaurant, do your homework, understand what you're getting into, and be willing to walk away when everything doesn't add up or when you have that gut feeling that maybe there's just not something perfect. A lot more good advice from Marilyn in her chapter in the book, in her videos. We love Marilyn. She's a great lady, done very well in business for a very long time, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to share some of her story. Thank you all for listening. More of these coming soon. Have a good one.